Hello, and welcome to The Money Trench, the music industry podcast with me, Mark Sutherland. We hope you're surviving in this hot weather, but now it's time to put the heat on the music industry in another scorching episode of The Money Trench. The Money Trench is supported by SOUNDON. SOUNDON is TikTok's all-in-one music distribution and promotion platform for artists and labels. Go to soundon.global to find out more and check out the SOUNDON Track of the Week in the TMT newsletter. And The Money Trench is also supported by TIXEL, the honest ticket exchange and waitlist, helping artists own their audience and protect fans from touts. Go to TIXEL.com to find out more and check out the TIXEL Gig of the Week in the TMT newsletter. And we support Earth%, the music industry's climate foundation. Check earth%.org to find out more. And this week, we're in TYX Studios, where we're joined by one of the industry's leading marketing and management executives. She's been in the industry for 40 years, working at companies such as 19, Infectious and BMG, and with artists including Ash, Alt J, Blondie and Rick Astley. She also set up the first UK label management and artist services consultancy and has her own record label. Please welcome the founder of the remote control agency, one and only, Pat Carr.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Pat. Welcome to the show. How's your music week been?
My music week has been warm.
Very warm.
In many ways. No, it's been a good week.
Good. We are recording this podcast on the hottest day of the year, so I appreciate you coming along.
Yes, you should pay.
Despite the weather, but beautifully air conditioned.
It is. It's chilly in here.
Yes. So have you been working on anything exciting this week?
Yeah, we've got some good stuff. Yeah, we've got some good stuff going on. Some nice stuff. We're doing Dylan John Thomas, so he's just done Transmit and has got a single out this week. We've got Leroy Clampett, the producer, so we're working hard on his stuff. We're doing some work. We've got a lot of active artists at the moment, which is all very exciting.
So that's the way we like it. But in the meantime, let's see what the rest of the music biz has been up to with our roundup of the latest industry headlines. Our first story comes from Variety, which reports on the many tributes paid to legendary record company executive Clive Davis, who has died aged 94. Bruce Springsteen called him a great man, Carlos Santana called him a visionary, and Alicia Keys said he left an indelible mark on music. Pat, Clive Davis, obviously a record company legend. Yeah, did you ever have any dealings with him?
Never did. I mean, I was always very much in the independent sector. The only time I worked with majors right at the start when I was at 19, in the very early days of 19. But that was a wee while ago. I mean, Sony was CBS then, so yeah, well, that dates that. So no, but I watched from afar. It's and yes, a legend. I think it's a very special person, and I think just the tributes say it all. Some wonderful people.
Yeah, I mean, he had good ears, as they say.
Well, he did. He had a bit of a knack.
Yeah, but he also knew how to market an artist, didn't he? I think if you look at sort of Whitney Houston or someone like that, that was almost as much a triumph of marketing as music, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it seemed that the Clive Davis act was marketed in the right way, in their own way. It never felt like manufactured or something. I mean, my instinct is that he let artists take their time. It wasn't that all of a sudden album one had to keep going. He let them write, he let them develop, and he let them grow, and that's what I saw from afar, and I think that's an admirable thing in this industry.
Yeah, we don't get so much of that maybe these days. But
I wouldn't possibly comment. I mean, again, working with independents, I think that's their strength. I think that's what independents have the wherewithal to do more, or the good ones, as long as it's financially prudent. Yeah. But yeah, I think always it's art. Yeah. It's art. You can't make it happen overnight.
No. Could you get a record company exec like Clive Davis in the modern age, do you think?
I don't know if the banks had let them. I think that the P&L, I bet the P&L on some of his artists was shocking at some point. They were, how unrecouped they were or whatever, it's so, profitability, those awful Excel charts where they sort of say, right, how many sales are you going to do and how many are you going to do this and how many are you going to do that? And you make a load of numbers up. I can't see him having much time for that, and that seems to be a way of putting records out that comes first and foremost before all the other good bits.
Yes, well, R.I.P. Clive.
Indeed.
Moving on to our next story, Music Business Worldwide reports that the music industry is closing in on 1 billion streaming subscriptions. A report from Media says the global subscriber count grew 10.1% in 2025 to 921.6 million. Spotify remains the market leader with 31.4% of subs, but YouTube Music is surging in popularity, especially in developing markets. Pat, I remember when the biz was excited about 1 million.
Yes.
1 million subs, not 1 billion. Did you ever think we'd get to 1 billion?
No, it's an unimaginable number. You know, it's. But then, you know, I think it's the surge in the populations of India and and Latin America. You know, the huge markets. I presume the Chinese market is in those figures. You know, massive markets with a lot of consumers and a lot of people listening to music. And I think the variety of music that's being listened to, I think, the frequency, it shows that music's still really important to people. And, I don't care how people consume music as long as they do. And it just shows that music is still part of people's lives.
Does it change the game for the work you do, given that you sort of got this huge potential audience now? It's a bit different from the days when you'd think, well, UK, maybe US, you've got 1 billion people out there to sell to now.
It makes, I love it. I think it makes it more fun. You literally can put, you can make a track live. And then sometimes you never know. All of a sudden, you're looking at stats or whether it's Spotify artists or Chartmetric or whatever, and you're like, "What's going on in Indonesia?" All of a sudden you've done, you've done sort of X amount of streams overnight, and you're like, "Well, there's something going on there," and you're rummaging away and trying to find out, and then discovering it's some random playlist, curator. So, and that's interesting and that's great. So you sort of have you can then follow it through and chase it. And so I think it's exciting. I still think the job is the job is the job. And I'm forever saying this and I'm boring on about it. And I think you've heard me say it before. It's that our job is still the same. You've got to make people fall in love with music, with an artist, with a track. I think a lot of people take their streaming and go, "Oh, that's it. It's brilliant." But then you've got people with millions of streams who can't sell out a signing at Rough Trade East, 270 people. So, it's a different thing. I think you have to be aware of a stream as a swipe. Yeah. It's like a like. It's not a purchase. It's not I love that so much I want to spend money on it or I want to really invest in it. And that's your next job, is to take a stream and make someone invest in whatever they're streaming. And I don't care what they're streaming. It can be Harry Styles or whatever, or a local artist in Indonesia or Asia. Don't care.
Mm. And are you thinking globally from the start now, always with campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always have, because the UK is such a small market. Really. US...
Third biggest in the world.
Oh, fair. I know, but I mean, still... Yeah. Just in terms of that. So, the US, I don't pretend to have much expertise in, because it's just too big and too huge. But, I've always felt it was important to get, when it was easier, get artists, on a ferry going to Europe relatively quickly and start that job quite quickly if they were live artists. So, I've always, concentrated on the home territory, of course, but I've never... I've always thought about the rest of the world.
Yeah. And there's 1 billion people listening to streaming, but there's also a huge amount of music that they have available to them. Yeah. How do you cut through all the noise to reach that massive potential?
Again, that's hard. Yeah. That's hard, and that's hard for artists. And I think. When artists want, they still want playlists. Now that landscape is changing.
Was that rapidly. A playlist still as important?
I don't think so, no. But it is to artists quite often. It's like, they're like, well, we want New Music Friday, and I'm like, you really don't. But then oh my God, we really, really want it, And it's like, and then you sort of say, well, trouble is, there's how many records were released this week, and blah blah blah, and all that, and you could just see, it's. Well, why bother then? It's you can't be depressed about it. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, as long as it's proper music. I mean, let's not go there with AI artists, but, you know, and that sort of thing. But yes, it's what it is, Mark.
Right. We might talk a bit more about it later, but our final story, I'm afraid, does
Yes,
involve
I knew.
AI. And it comes from Music Week, which has a story about a global coalition of artists, songwriters and music managers calling for labels and publishers to stop misusing their rights in AI deals. The group says artists' work is being used in AI agreements without prior discussion or agreement. Pat, you work with artists, of course. Are they worried about AI, the people you work with?
Yes, I think so. I think everybody is. They're aware. I mean, I think, you know, it's again, you know, in the smaller atmosphere where we are. I mean, I'm an independent member of the board of the BPI, so obviously that comes up quite a lot in discussions there. So I don't think, you know, I haven't had a request for anybody to use any music of any of my artists directly. Now, whether or not that means it's being used or not, probably who knows? But I would assume that it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's something something needs to get sorted. You know, I agree with that. You know, it's all the labels are doing it. The labels are doing it. You know, not all the labels are. I mean, I'm not. You know, I want it to be a level playing field. You know, and you can see the major companies have done their specific deals with, you know, various AI companies, and you know, I don't want the independent sector to be excluded from access to those deals.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really important. So that's the drum that I would bang. I think, you know, it exists. We can't ignore it. We can't ban it. So we have to control it, and we have to respect copyright in all its forms. I think one of the things about AI has been interesting is the fact that all the creative industries have come together on this. So bearing in mind the enormous income that the creative industries creates for the country and for global economies, it's got to get dealt with properly.
Definitely. I mean, you're a manager. I guess Ash have got catalogue in various different places.
Yes.
Which may or may not be part of those deals you're talking about. Do you think artists have enough? Do they have enough of a say in these deals? No one seems to be consulting them.
No, I mean, I think yes and no. I mean, a lot of the trouble is that yes, artists should be consulted and they should be aware of it, and I think that's really important. I have, you know, I mean, I'm a manager. I'm a tenuous manager. I manage Ash just because they're my mates, and I've known them for 30 years. That's not
tenuous.
And I know. Well, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy it, but you know, I mean, but I work with a lot of management companies. I work with a lot of small labels. I work with a lot of big labels. You know, there is a practicality element of getting permission. You know, I've lost syncs many times because, you know, a band member gave at the end of an album gave the T-boy, you know, 15% of tracks on the album, and they therefore get permission. You know, they have to approve syncs, and so 10 years later, you can't clear the publishing without their say so. And where are they?
You can't find that T-boy.
Yeah, you can't find the T-boy. It's probably running a record label somewhere. You know, maybe it's Flood. And that's how he got
probably
his name.
Gone to work in AI.
Yeah, maybe. But you know what I mean? So I think there's a practical element of it which you have to work out. But you know, that's why that's why it has to be a conversation.
Yeah.
But artists should be. I mean, they sign their rights to labels, to publishers, but that's a two-way thing.
Definitely.
It's, you know, labels and publishers have to protect their artists, right?
Okay, well, we will see how that story develops, but great stuff.
It's going to go on.
And on. And don't forget, for even more music industry insights, sign up for the TMT newsletter at themoneytrench.com. But now it's time to talk to this week's guest, Pat Carr of Remote Control. Pat, you wear many hats, but you run a marketing consultancy. How are things in the world of marketing right now?
Interesting, varied, exciting, also mundane because you're still doing the same shit. I think there's lots of, you know, it's the same thing, I think, is that, I mean, danger of repeating myself, but, your marketing is just making sure that somebody loves your record more than somebody else's to a certain extent. And so, you're just trying to think of the little ways, the little things that will make people go, oh, right, I get that, or I like that, without it seeing, I mean, the best marketing you shouldn't even notice. It should be things that just happen. If you can see something being marketed, then you're doing it wrong.
Probably doesn't work that well either.
No, it doesn't work at all. I mean, people aren't stupid. Whoever did anything because they were told to willingly.
Well, these days, you never know. And you work with record companies, management companies, artists. Generally, when they come to you, what do they want?
Control.
Okay.
Route to market, but in their own way. They want control. They want to own their rights, and they want to not be told what to do, but to feel that, whether or not, I mean, they're all, every artist wants to be successful, even the ones that say they don't, but, they want to do it in their own way. And that, they've still, they've got to go and do the work. They've got to do all the ridiculous, social media content, even if you get someone to do it, they always cost a fortune, but they've got to do all that. They've got to stand behind it. It's their name on the sleeve, or not on the sleeve, because most artists don't like their names on the sleeves at the moment, but it's their name. It's so you're doing stuff for them. So I think it's working with people that will understand them and listen to them. I've always done that with all the artists I've worked with, even with Ash when they were 16, 17, right in the early days. It was the same. You go, right, look, here's the options. This is what I think we should do. And this is why. There's also this path, and this path. But, okay, there's all the information. We will go with whatever you decide. But, we recommend this, and just hope that, there's respect, mutual. It's mutual respect.
Yeah. But that's not always the case everywhere. Certainly wouldn't have been back in the day.
No.
If you're on a major label, you probably had less say in how you were marketed, right?
I think you had virtually none. I mean, you see some stuff and you hear some of the stories now, particularly of women. No, and I think, there is a definite backlash to that.
Well,
which is good, so that is what people want. They all come and say, we don't want to be on a label because we don't do things our way.
Yeah.
We want to release this record. Now, some labels do good work, and and they really do. The difference. I mean, A&R I don't do. I mean, as I've worked with Corda for a long time. I mean, again, starting with Simon Fuller. I mean, he was an A&R man. And then other people I've worked with, and sometimes A&R men is always a joke in the marketing department. Our guys just sit back and go, well, it was a hit when it left my desk, that's it. But sometimes the subtlety of a radio remix, just that sort of redoing for radio, just making things a bit shinier in some way when it's right for the record. Sometimes it's done for the sake of it. It's a skill, the right mix, getting an Alan Moulder or someone in, he earns his money. His mixes sound great, So I think A&R's important, and labels do bring things. They bring expertise. They it's not just about money. But some artists want to do it their way, and they do a good job.
Excellent. You mentioned social media. Has your sector been sent into some sort of doom spiral by the imminent social media ban for teenagers?
I was at the Fast Forward conference about 6 months ago, almost earlier.
Yep.
And there was this I wasn't speaking or anything. I was just there because, I think it's an interesting conference,
Yeah,
and
good.
they had there was a section about, what happens if, it was sort of, and there were all these, young people, I can say that, on the stage, and they were sort of going, look, but how do we do this and how will we do that? And, we'll be cutting off people under 16 from music discovery. And, and in the end, I was like, excuse me, I had to stand up. And I was like, I was 16 in 1979. And I managed to find some pretty damn fine bands, through the radio, through press, through word of mouth, through fanzines, through record stores. It's not the only way. So
a lot of those things don't exist anymore, though.
Well, then maybe they should.
They're going to bring them back.
I don't know. Well, I think it's, right or wrong. I think something's got to happen with social media. I mean, something's it's got to happen. And I also think that it's difficult to make it happen because they're now as resourceful as kids. And if they want to go online, they'll go online. So I don't know where it's got to be really careful so you know where you're sending them if you're banning them from the easy way of doing it. But, music will always find its way.
Yeah.
And, brothers and older brothers, older sisters, there's all sorts of ways to discover music. It does not have to be via your phone.
No. Do you think the business has become too reliant on social media to market things?
Yeah. I mean, I do. But I think we've dug our own grave there. Like you're saying, I mean, I think the record stores and things are coming back and whatever. And we talked about the billions, streaming subscriptions, which has damaged the radio, and the curation of radio can be great, can also be an absolutely, a closed door to a lot of, particularly independent, smaller artists standing out, you can't afford a plugger. So, there's good ways and bad ways. But I mean, I think, yes, the constant sort of, with every single artist, so some like it, some don't, but it's like this, well, you've got to post about it, and it's what do you post and when and what's the social schedule. It's a really big pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for some artists, particularly if you're not sort of a natural in that world.
And there's very few that are. And I can't do it for them. I mean, people don't want, I'm banned from doing anything for Ash, for example. I'm banned myself because, what's a 60-odd-year-old woman's voice? Shut up. So it's hard.
But I mean, we often hear, don't we, for maybe not independent labels, but labels are, like, oh, you need to go viral on TikTok.
I know. It's like sitting in a marketing meeting and, and someone says, well, what we really need is a sync. It's like, oh, no shit, Yes, it'd be great to go viral on TikTok. However, going viral on TikTok doesn't make fans. It makes people who swipes. Do they know your name or do they know whatever meme it was or stunt you were playing? Do they know the name of the track and do they know the name of the artist and have they listened to anything else? So going viral on TikTok, I think is and sometimes it's a double-edged sword. I mean, we had an artist, Will Joseph Cook, who's brilliant, and he's now working under a different name, Akioki, really good. But he had with a track called Be Around Me, Be Around You. But that had a moment, or early TikTok, and then basically everything was either like it or not like it after that, and we had the second album, we had fun following it up. So it was, it was hard.
Mm. Do you think there's too much pressure on artists, that there's all these social media platforms, they need to be posting on all of them, pretty regularly to feed the algorithm? Is it too much to expect an artist to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's great if they do, but if they do and it's not authentic, it doesn't work anyway. So, and you could spend this forever looking out for social media people to help and, doing stuff and, and some artists do it their way and they don't post very often or they post in a way that breaks every rule in the book. And we're like, no, you can't do that. And then we're going, actually, it's working, So there's no hard and fast rules. But yes, I think we do. It's when you do your pitch forms for DSPs, it's TikTok followers and, biggest TikToks and, biggest recent Instagram posts and, what's the reels that have been, the stats, you put that in. Well, why say that? Why not say something about how you wrote the song? In fact, you have to put that in as well. But there's a lot of relevance on it.
Yeah, yeah. And what did you make of the sort of fallout around Chaotic Good and the work they did for Geese and other people?
I do. I've worked with Partisan for a long time, so hats off there. Geese was happening before their Chaotic Goods thing happened, so and I think it sort of tarnished that a bit, because that Geese are a truly amazing band. And they were a truly amazing band before that happened, and before afterwards. It was Partisan are a very innovative label, and they try lots of different things out. We're sort of saying about marketing being interesting and whatever. And Chaotic Goods was just starting out, and they gave a good talk. I mean, I had some meetings with them, not about Geese, I'm not that involved with Partisan anymore, but they talk the talk. I think the fact that they were just taking it that bit too far and weren't particularly honest about how they were making these things successful was a shame. But I hate all that influencer stuff anyway.
But was it just it was just marketing, was it? People seem to think it's sort of cheating in some way, but
it was. I mean, the fact is it went well because the tracks were good. Yeah. But they were posting stuff that wasn't, I think you've got to, it's like an ad, you say something's an ad. And so if someone's posting about it because they're being paid for it, or, creating something and pretending that it was done in a way that it wasn't, then, it's not cool, is it? Is it marketing? Is it guerrilla marketing, I suppose, is the way you'd put it. Yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah.
I think, I think...
You're not doing any of that, is that what you're saying?
No. Mark, really?
Sorry to be impersonal, Pat. just checking for the benefits of the listener. But I mean, you have been in marketing for quite a long time, I think it's fair to say. So has it completely changed since you started out to, when you get something like Chaotic Good happening, that would have been the stuff of a sort of madman's dreams back when you started?
Well, yes. I mean, there was all sorts of stuff they used to do. You just were doing it sort of analog, you'd be, graffiti and, postcards from, postcards with stamped signatures on and
always from Leamington Spa for some reason.
All the fan club people were all in Leamington Spa. Yeah. It was weird because I lived in Leamington Spa because I went to Warwick University. So it's a postcode I know well, and it was just like they're all in Leamington Spa. It's weird, but it's lots of different.
It wasn't just you sending them all out.
No. As if Peter Andre never.
So. Yeah, and do people still spend money on marketing the way they used to?
Some people do, but it doesn't work.
Right.
I think you could spend 50 grand upwards on digital marketing across an album campaign, if you like, but it doesn't make any difference because it's, if you only prop things up digitally, in particular, with spend, then when you stop spending, it just drops off a cliff. There's no, and also you can see, people can see, you got, look, it's got, this many streams and, there's 2 comments on the Instagram. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's evident. So you can't, it's hard to fiddle it that much. I mean, the same with, yes, you can do train posters all you like. And, I love a tube poster. I love, I still love doing billboards. I still think they're effective. In the right way, for the right artist, for the right profile.
I mean, you really notice them these days when there is one.
Yeah. But they're great, and you could do them in some way, but and different. Sometimes we do lost cat things on lampposts. I like sort of doing that sort of stuff as well. But if people don't like your record, they're not going to buy it. So it's about getting people to notice. It's about getting people to invest.
Yeah. And can marketing still work its magic on breaking an act these days?
I think so. I mean, in a subtle way. it can enhance, it can maximise, it can make sure people know. Do you know what I mean? It can, like, if you do get a BBC introducing play, you know, how are you making sure that as many people as possible know about that? You know, if you get your first, you know, just your first sort of, you know, good review, you know, how can that help? You know, you do sometimes see, you know, I the carousel ads where you've got press quotes and things, you know, sometimes those sorts of things work. You know, the same in tube posters. You're sat there and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yes, I want to know about that. So that's further down the line, but just early, you know, it's, you know, selling out gigs is a great way of starting to break an artist. And, you know, that's marketing. Now, whether or not you're doing it with a venue, whether or not you're doing it with the, you know, for the right artist, then begging online, going, I'm playing the Horn St Albans next Saturday, you know, come, please, you know, which always sells tickets. Or, you know, you're doing subtle stuff, or, you know, so yes, I think it does. But, you know, what's the difference between telling people about things and marketing?
Is this a joke?
You know, that's what marketing is. It's just telling lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, you've been involved with breaking a lot of artists over the years.
Yes.
Why is it so much harder these days?
Because there's so many more, I think, and also because there's less meaningful ways of doing it. You know, I mean, Ash was sort of very buzzy when they signed to Infectious, but I mean, they sort of went from very buzzy in the industry, knowing them, and you and I went to one of their first ever gigs. You know,
yeah, out in Belfast. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and but then it was when Chris Evans was doing the Radio 1 breakfast show and just fell in love with Girl from Mars and played it over and over again. That's what took it to that bigger level. I mean, it was cassette singles at the time, and I mean, we literally couldn't make enough. And luckily, they sold them in Woolworths. So getting something into Woolworths, I mean, you know, we talked, you know, barriers. It was only because of that we got the single into Woolworths. And if your single's in Woolworths, people buy it. You know, so you know, one follows the other. You know, you will have some sort of hit.
Hopefully the young people listening are Googling cassette singles.
I
and
know.
Woolworths.
Well, cassette singles, I think, are great fun, and they're really cheap to make, people.
They're probably back now.
Yeah, well, hopefully. Well, you know, albums, as we know, are. But anyway, but, you know, that's it. You know, Temper Trap, things just happened. You know, Temper Trap, we got that sync. We got the Sky Sports sync. And
is there one thing in marketing right now that still works, that will always work? Or is it more about doing 1,000 little things?
Yeah, it's more about it's about doing lots of things well, and it's about the stars aligning. A good festival slot, you know, just the stars aligning. Somebody, a fan, somebody at radio becoming a fan, you know. Yeah, it's about lots of things. Your one thing on its own doesn't. It's all about everything together all the time.
Almost a film title there, but let's talk about you. So how did you get into the business? Because you didn't originally want to work in music. You wanted to work in the theatre, is that right?
I did a theatre studies degree. No, but I wanted to work. I left university and fiddled around in theatre for a bit and thought, oh well, no, maybe not. And I discovered I was a good stage manager and I liked organising shit. So, and then I just went, those days you had to go to, you know, you had to start as a typist or a receptionist. My typing was appalling. I did a typing test and it came out of 4 words a minute. So they were like, well, you're reception. A friend of mine from university, who's still a very close friend, a girl called Ros Earls, 140 dB, as was now. She started working. She was a year above me, but we stayed friends. And she got a job at Psalm Studios. And then, so I moved back down to London. I was working in a shop and whatever. And, you know, but I wanted to get a job in media. And she was like, oh, well, look, there's this friend of mine that's looking for, they want an assistant of some sort. And it was Terry Gould, as then, now Terry Hall, publicist and...
Legend in the business.
Legend indeed. I mean, they're both legends, actually. Ros as well. And she was working with Simon Fuller, and they were a year into 19. So it was after the 19 phase, but they had a band called The Adventures and whatever. And so I started there.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad place to start, is it?
It was great because it was exciting. And Simon's it was incredibly charismatic and dynamic even then.
What did you learn from working with him?
Attention to detail. I mean, great attention to detail. Thinking ahead, sort of planning things and just getting things right, just carrying on, having a vision.
Yeah. You work with some good artists there, people like Annie Lennox, right?
Yes, and that was a delight. I mean, I was sort of, gobsmacked. She's an incredible person. And yeah, band called The Adventures, Belfast band, Brian
band,
Kennedy,
yeah.
A great band. I was at the OES Centre with Ash a month or so ago, and it was great to see sort of Brian Kennedy's name up there and The Adventures and Bat Kennedy, Brian's brother. And yeah, Paul Hardcastle, who I'm still friendly with. Yeah, Gary Bell, writer, and Kathy Dennis, of course, who went on to great things.
Yeah, top songwriter. And then you left, I guess, just before it really kicked off for Simon with the Spice Girls.
Yes.
And
I couldn't have borne all that.
No?
Well, no, just it's not. I was also sort of running around, with Terry married Philip Hall by then, and that there was manic stuff going on and whatever. And I was, my love was guitars and bands. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I sort of left, because that it was great working with The Adventures, but everything was very pop and yeah, I appreciate it. I love it. The Spice Girls were a great band, and I was lucky enough to work with Melanie C on her previous album. And that was an honour and a delight. And, I've never met anybody who worked harder. But, yeah, and, I wanted to go. Corder and I got friendly when he was at RCA, and lots of 19 stuff went through them. And when he started Infectious, I was like, he he rang me asking me what a barcode was. I was, oh, for God's sake, it's okay. I'm coming. So yes, sort of started with him just to help out for a bit.
Yeah. Well, you worked with Corder for a long time. Did you realise when you started what an important working relationship that was going to be?
Not really. We just had a laugh. We always did. I mean, again, you were around a lot of that early Infectious stuff. I mean, it was just an absolute ride. It was a laugh.
Mm. I mean, Corder seemed to be flying by the seat of his pants a bit in the early days. I think he had did he empty his bank account to sign publicly to itself or something?
I couldn't possibly comment.
But
he may have had a bit of help. Probably, It's, yeah. This. Yes. Well, it's like any. You're starting a company. You're starting out. We worked. I mean, literally, I was clothed by Pot Will Eat Itself merch for 2 years. Literally, because it was free. That was my winter coat. They made some winter coats, and Craig Jennings. I was like, "Can I have one of them?" They were really good. Gimme and the Pee Wee merch was.
Yeah, they did do good merch.
They did great merch. They were quite good at music as well as it goes.
Not bad.
So we went through a lot. Just to set it all up, you do.
Mm. And was it Ash that sort of really moved that company onto the next level when they sort of came through and broke quite quickly?
Probably for Infectious. I mean, there was other great bands as well and other good stuff. But yes, I mean, Ash was the hit. But then we'd merged with Mushroom, and Corder was sort of head of both by then. And I was working more with Infectious, and Wes was doing Mushroom stuff. But I mean, we were part of the sort of the Garbage, Muse. Well, Muse was a little bit later, but that sort of ecosystem, and Gudinski and all that. So,
yeah, I mean, Mushroom Infectious was a pretty legendary label back in the day.
It was a bit of a laugh. We had a good time. Yeah. And we're still. I mean, there's a load of us there that still we go out and have lunch every Christmas, which tends to be quite a long. Actually, it was dinner, and we changed it to lunch, and it now sort of seems to merge into the two. I think I got home about 8:00 last year, which I don't do very often anymore. So yeah, we're still. It's incredible. There's some really good people there that went on to do incredible things.
Yeah, I mean, you
wrote a thing about it.
I did write a big piece for Variety a while back, but it was great for bands, obviously, but also it's actually Matt Sada, Stuart Camp, loads of big names working there. What was it like with all those personalities in one office?
loud. I mean, Stewie was my intern and was my complete left hand, right hand, left hand man. He was brilliant, and he just got on and made things happen, and was just Stuart right from the start. I just thought, you're great. I remember we did a thing with release of Nuclear Sounds with Ash, and we did HMV sponsored. We had a jet, we had a plane, and we did all four. We did in-stores we started off in London, and then we did Cardiff, then we did Edinburgh, then we finished off in Belfast at midnight. And I was on the jet, darling, because of course I was Queen. And Stu came to Belfast and met us in Belfast, and a good night was had by all. And then the band were heading off down to Dublin to do a show the next day, and I was going home, and they literally kidnapped a very hungover Stewie. And I was like, I wouldn't argue.
Well, those, yes, Mushroom Infectious threw some pretty good parties.
We did.
Back in the day
parties
as well. Do you sort of miss those rock and roll days of the music industry?
Yes, I think it's all a bit boring now. I mean, look, I'm not advocating people sort of, party quite as hard as we did. But I mean, also we worked. I mean, listen, we partied, but people were in the office the next day.
Yeah, often asleep on the sofa, if I remember right.
Yes, but present company accepted, except for a few times.
Of course.
No, but I mean, but we worked really hard. And I mean, I never had a drink till the gig was over. And then I made up for it. But, you were very, we partied hard and we worked hard, and we made sure that if people came to a Mushroom Infectious party, they had a good time and they remembered us. It's like when we did the Reading Leeds tent, which again, was quite legendary. But, it was a really special Reading. We had Cable, Garbage, I think it was Ash were playing, Muse, I think, Ween was playing maybe. There was some Flying Nun acts, certainly. We had a lot of acts playing. So it's like, let's do a tent. Just everybody just wanted to hang out there. I bet, we got rid of all the white plastic chairs, and my husband and I went down to a junk shop and just bought loads of old tatty sofas and things like that. So it was really comfy as well, and it looked like the young one's flat.
Ah, those were the days. But,
and it was good fun. But it worked. But it worked. Everybody was talking about it. Yeah. And it worked, and about our artists, and it was about the Cables as much as the Garbages.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very successful label, and the interesting thing about it is, I guess it was independent, but it seemed to be able to take on the majors, both in terms of signing the hot new acts, but also getting them to number one. I mean, Ash famously beat Janet Jackson to number one with Free Your Angels,
yes.
Didn't they? So what was it? You don't really get that now with independent labels.
Well, Partisan do it.
Well, true. But it's a lot rarer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a lot rarer. I think because we just put so much energy into it, and we just did everything a bit differently. And I think people liked us. People wanted us to succeed, and our artists to succeed. So, whether or not it was, God, I can't remember the name of the track. Something about Nitro. But anyway, it was a band with Cable, and we serviced Radio 1 we put the CDs in a balloon filled with helium. I don't know how we did it, but we managed it. I still can't remember how we did it. But, and that's how they all got serviced to promo, because you had to do physical service and then. So, we doing the pink furry sleeves for Garbage. The pink, do you remember the
I do, yeah. I think I've still got those somewhere.
Exactly, and we didn't do so much gimmicky stuff with Ash on the first album because we didn't really need to, but there was all the Guaranteed Real Teenagers stuff or whatever. But the second album we did in metal, in a metal case with magnets around, and it cut people's fingers. we had to change. Well, it was a nightmare because it just got really sharp. So that was a bit of a mare. So there was all. I mean, we did. Yeah, with Ash, we did the beach balls. In Woolworths. If you bought 1977, you got a beach ball. So, so we did loads of stuff, but I think people just liked us. And so we did, it's not about how much you spend. We're going back to that. It was about the innovation, the joy. If there's joy going into stuff, people tell.
Yeah.
And also really fucking good music.
Well, that does always help, obviously. But...
I mean, it's, it was that's the thing. That's the bedrock of it, Stupid Girl.
Although you also had Peter Andre, so...
Oh, come on, Mysterious Girl. That first album, it's all right.
if you say so, Pat. If you say so.
Oh, and Pete worked again. He was another one that worked really hard.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. Now and then Mushroom Infectious came to an end, got bought by Warner. You did. Corder went to Warner. You didn't go to Warner, did you? No. You're putting a face.
No, didn't fancy it. They wanted. I had some meetings, but they wanted to put me in a room and make me a product manager, and I'd been general manager, and I didn't. I just knew then, rightfully so, that I wasn't going to be somebody that was very good at actually working for a big company where you had to, people. There were rules.
Yeah. So you set up remote control the first time, then, at a time when there was no one else really doing.
Well, it didn't. It set itself up because there were sort of people I knew from Infectious days. I mean, the first client was FCOM, and there was a guy called Eric Moran who was actually I knew him from 19 Days. He was a promo guy doing promo for D-Mob. Danny D and I spent a week driving around France with him. And lovely chap, but he was working with Laurent Garnier, and they were doing F Communications, and it was going really well in the rest of Europe, but it wasn't going very. UK was they had Flat Eric, but apart from that, which is not something they particularly wanted to be known for, even though it did
number one record,
did well financially,
yeah.
But and he was just like, well, can you help me do this and help me do that, and in the end, it was like, yeah, can you pay me? And so it just became a thing. And then a couple of American people I knew sort of asked, a label called Danger Bird, and just things, it just happened.
Yeah.
Because I knew I didn't want to go and work for a label particularly. And, I didn't, there was nothing else I particularly fancied. So I just thought I'd do that for a bit.
Until Corder relaunched Infectious.
Well, we did that together.
And you went back.
Well, yeah, we literally did it together. That was Corder and I all, stayed friends. Yeah. And he was just freshly out of Warner's. And he obviously, we both stayed very close to Michael Gudinski. And Michael had a band that he was, an Australian band that he was sort of totally passionate about and was trying to sort of find them a UK European setup. And Corder had been to see them the night before, and it was Temper Trap. So Corder and I had lunch at the Ship in Wandsworth, and it was a really cold day, and it was one of those ones where we were sort of like, another bottle of red, and he was like, well, maybe a glass or whatever. But we were just chatting away, and he was banging on about Temper Trap and how good it was, and just all of a sudden, Dougie started to sing, and it was just like, whoa. And I was like, well, we could. I said, well, he said, the thing is that you and I could put that out. We'd know how to do it. And I was like, well, I've got the wherewithal, by then I had distribution deals, you know what I mean? I mean, Infectious was, what was it called? Remote control was very well set up to help people self-release if they needed to. I mean, it wasn't, not many people did that so much then, but it was there. So, and that was the idea. And so we were like, well, let's do that then. Yay, brilliant. And then, funnily enough, Corder just called the next day saying, I've just had the most bizarre phone call. And it was Michael Watt, who then invested in Infectious #2, who sort of said, look, I hear you're out of Warner's. What are you doing? Corder, having had a bottle of wine, sort of went up, start a record label. And so with Wattie's wonderful support.
Yeah.
So, we were like, okay, let's do it.
And you had a lot of success, Temper Trap, Alt J, etc. And then went into BMG.
Yes.
Which was not the old major label BMG. This was the new BMG by that stage.
I mean, they didn't really have a front line at all.
Was it very different going into a company like that?
Yeah. Yeah, very different. I think it, I did 3 years there. I enjoyed 2.5 of them. I think, there wasn't a frontline label particularly. I mean, I thought that, we'd sold and I was going to exit, go and do remote control again or whatever. And then they sort of said, no, we want you as well. We want to, New Corder was going to stay. And no, we want you to build a proper frontline label. So I was like, And I found, that was great. Okay, fine. So yes, I did that. Gemma was there as a consultant. So she became permanent. And then there was a guy, Luke Gregory, who was there, and he was he was half working with catalogue and sort of doing some of the metadata stuff. And I liked him very much immediately as well. So Connie and Mike had gone their own way from Infectious Part 2. They'd gone into Universal to start all my friends. And so I made Luke the product manager for Infectious. And then we just grew it all. Sam Hill came in, who then became sort of music global head of digital. He's gone into a little independent now. And we grew it. And so when I left, there was probably about 13, 15 people. I brought in Andy Lloyd from PS. He was, great international guy. I mean, I love doing international, but so he was the only one of the very few people I'd trust to take it over. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And yes, we had some great success, and we also had great fun there. It was a really strong team. A lot of them are still there, but again, we're all in contact. Yeah. We're still friendly. And Luke then came and joined me sort of 2 years into this remote control after I'd left.
Yeah, so you left BMG, having built it up. You went back to remote control.
Yeah.
And obviously that appears to be going pretty well. Are the changes in the label landscape, are they good for a company like yours?
I mean, there's so many companies like mine now. It's weird how many people ring me up and go, "Oh, I want to start up a company just like yours. Can we have a coffee and you can give me lots of tips?" No.
Oh, you charge them for that.
Want a glass of wine at least. But I mean, there's a lot of really good people doing it, and I think there's a lot more need for it because it's changed a lot since I've been doing it this last time, and it's like 9 years, something like that. Just in terms of the way that the distributors are working and the distributors are being purchased and whatever, it's to be discussed another time. I don't actually have a problem with it. So I think it's the same thing. I mean, there's people doing it with varying levels of success, but it's, we sort of say we're the original and the best. I think we're sort of so very, very hands-on on our artists. Or we try to be, we like, Luke and I work really well together. And so we try to get really, it's enjoyable when you're really sort of invested in something, when you care.
Yeah. Yeah. And where next? I mean, how do you want to grow it into a massive company? No?
It's about us. No, we wouldn't grow it. It's about us too. And we enjoy it being about us too. Yeah. We pull people in as we need, for projects as we need them, but the core of it is us too. So, you get what you sees.
Fair enough. And some big stuff happening with Ash. 30 years since 1977 this year. I refuse to believe it.
I know. Tell me about it. Yeah, really exciting. Really exciting. And, it's the band are in such a great place. Our tour's selling out, it's in December, for God's sake. We sold out the Roundhouse. Yeah. Amazing, so early. And we worked with Fierce Panda on the two new albums.
Which are both great.
But they're really, really good, and I think Tim's just doing fantastic work at the moment. Yeah. And they all are. They're better than ever live. They're making great records. The reissued 1977. I think that's really exciting.
Well, fantastic stuff. Thanks, Pat. Please stick around for Latest or Greatest, which is coming right up. And if you're enjoying the Money Trench, supported by SOUNDON and TIXEL, please give us a rating or review on your podcast platform of choice, as it really does help us keep making this podcast. But now it's time for our quickfire round with our guest, Pat Carr of Remote Control. Pat, this is called Latest or Greatest. You can decide to talk about either the most recent or the all-time best music biz thing that you've experienced in these categories. We start with the latest or greatest record that you've bought.
It's really hard, that. I mean, I think every day you ask me, I'll give you a different answer.
What's today's answer?
Today's answer is Elvis Costello, My Name's True.
That's a pretty good answer any day, I would have thought.
It's just a brilliant album. And it was really, I played it again and again and again. It was very close to the Jury. It was very much an either or, but I picked that one just because the songs are so wonderful.
Yeah, well, excellent choice. The latest or greatest gig or festival that you've been to? You've not been to many.
No, I mean, I saw Geese recently and I thought it was stunning. I was really excited to be there. You could, even before they came on, it was, real goosebumps. That was thrilling.
Goosebumps. Like it.
Yes, I didn't even. You see, I can't help it.
Geese bumps.
I know, I can't help it. And then sort of festivals, I've been thinking about this. I mean, some of the early Readings were great fun, just before I was working sort of really in the industry. What does stick out is the Glastonbury, the wet Glastonbury, that Ash just kept playing more. Basically, one of the only bands that made it in.
Oh, they ended up headlining.
They headlined on the Sunday night. Yeah. I mean, by which time I really wanted to go home. Yeah. But it's what you do, and so that was just it was just funny. It was just like, oh yeah, we'll do another one. And that was so that was good. And I mean, again, another Ash one would be the Good Friday Agreement gig with U2, which obviously was being a non-Irish girl myself as well was very special.
Your latest or greatest music biz boss?
Yes, being someone that doesn't really like bosses, this was quite hard. But then there was only one answer, and it's Gudinski.
The legend.
The legend that is Michael Gudinski, who taught me a lot, who's the loyalist, kindest, kind man, family man, always say hi to Kerry, my husband. Great cricket fan, never a bad thing, even though,
Australian cricket, presumably.
Yeah, I know, and I took an awful lot of stick. No, just a great inspiring man. You walked into a room and, you were like, right, let's get at it. I've seen him stand at, in front of, empty gigs, standing right in front of the stage, clapping. It's would do anything for his bands. Okay. So, yeah. Gudinski.
Yeah, what a legend. The latest or greatest mistake that you've made?
There's quite a lot of choice. I don't know if there's any mistakes. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's things
you don't make mistakes.
Well, yeah, I've made shitloads of mistakes, but they're all sort of probably led to happy circumstances, and that's taught me not to do them again. So, regrets, bollocks. It's mistakes. I've too many.
Too many to mention.
Yeah.
All right, Malik.
Sorry, I know. That's a complete and utter wimpy thing.
Okay. The latest or greatest artist that you've worked with?
You see, again, this is a toughie. I mean, I've got Annie Lennox. I'm going to say Cable.
Yeah, okay. They were a great little band.
A great little
band. Should have been bigger.
Never happened. Should have been bigger. They were absolutely bloody marvellous. And I still listen to them. Yeah. So there we go. So I could say, Alt J. Oh my God, Alt J, amazing. So proud of all that. Winning the Mercury, what a moment. All those sorts of things. But Cable were a great band. And so they, go listen to Cable.
Why weren't they bigger? Was it the marketing?
Oh, terrible marketing.
The latest or greatest music industry party that you've been to?
There's been a few. We've held a few. Yeah. I mean, I think we went through some of the ones, the Mushroom Infectious days. I mean, in the 80s when I was started off. I mean, I remember there was one at London Zoo. There was those parties were pretty massive. We did a huge one for Peter Andre's album launch. Can't remember which album, at the In and Out Club, which was pretty. That was a really good one. The Astoria party was pretty legendary.
I was at that one.
Yes, yeah. That. Do you remember anything about it? Probably not.
Not as much as I probably should.
Exactly. We were giving out to you basically force feeding people. It was tequila with gold flecks in. We were sponsored. And we had real nurses dressed, going around in their uniforms, giving it out, which was quite funny. Yeah, loads.
Okay.
My 50th, Michael Watt, who invested in Infectious, owned Ronnie Scott's. Our office was in there. And so for my 50th, I had my party upstairs in Ronnie Scott's. And that was great.
Wow.
I had a band. He got me a band. I had a, that was a good night.
Sounds it. And we can't let you go without giving us a new music tip. Are you always looking to sort of work with new acts? Are you looking for what's coming through?
Yeah. I'm not, as I say, A&R's never really been my sort of thing. But yes, but can I say one of mine?
Of course you can. Yeah, everyone else does.
Yeah. No, I'm going to say Leroy Clampett because I think it's a really lovely record. I mean, there's a lot I'm working with, and I'm really sorry to all the other ones I haven't mentioned. But he's a producer, songwriter, Kiwi, out of LA now. He co-wrote Pussy Palace on Lily Allen. He's done a lot of Madison Beer stuff, but he's done an album he's putting out on his own label, which is out in August, and it's called Get Happy, and it's just really lovely. It's just great, and it's a really interesting, really, really strong record. So that's why, just because it's so interesting.
Okay, fantastic stuff. We will check that out, but that sadly is all we have time for. So a big thank you to our guest, Pat Carr of Remote Control. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for us.
You're very welcome. The Money Trench, the music industry podcast with me, Mark Sutherland, is supported by SOUNDON and TIXEL and in support of Earth Percent. It's produced by Tape Notes and exec produced by Mike Walsh, with huge thanks to Sennheiser, the Fourth Pillar, and our friends at Deviate Digital for our social media. The Money Trench music is by the brilliant Tom A. Smith, and to get in touch with us, please email mike@themoneytrench.com. Thanks this week to TYX Studios for their beautiful podcast studio and facilities. TYX Studios provides premium podcasting studio facilities and production assistance right in the heart of London. Check them out at tyxstudios.com. Hopefully it will be a cooler week this week, but the heat is always on in the music industry. LSO St. Luke's launches its new studio. Bella Figura hosts its summer party. BST Hyde Park continues. There are big gigs for Harry Styles, Jeff Goldblum, 10cc, Biffy Clyro, Paul Weller, The Kooks, Metallica, Robin, Snow Patrol, Alanis Morissette, Wolf Alice and Def Leppard. And you can pour some sugar on TMT when we drop our next episode on Monday, June the 29th. With another big biz name in the Money Trench hot seat. We will see you then. Pat, thanks very much for coming on the show, and now go and get a nice cool drink.
I will. Thank you very much.
Cheers.